Mike Pachelli here. Thanks for tuning in. For this lesson, I'll be talking about the Beatles recording of Because that they did in August of 1969. The song was written by John Lennon when he was staying at Ringo's house in Weybridge, and apparently Yoko was playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata on the piano, and John asked if she could play the chords backwards, which is apparently the inspiration for the song. But Because has nothing to do with playing the chords of Moonlight Sonata backwards. In fact, it's a slight variation on the first movement, but in actuality, it's a tiny bit of Beethoven and a whole lot of Lennon. And about writing the song, George Harrison has said, "John wrote this tune. The backing is a bit like Beethoven, and three-part harmony right throughout. Paul usually writes the sweeter tunes, and John writes the sort of more the rave-up things or the freakier things. But John's getting to where he doesn't want to. He just wants to write 12 bars. But you can't deny it. I think this is possibly my favorite one on the album. The lyrics are so simple. The harmony was pretty difficult to sing. We had to really learn it. But I think that's one of the tunes that will impress most people. It's really good." August 1st, the Beatles are at EMI Studio 2, and Because is the last song they're recording for the Abbey Road album. And for the rhythm track, the musicianship consists of John on his Epiphone Casino, Paul playing his Rickenbacker bass, Ringo was keeping time on his hi-hat, and they were feeding that through the headphones, and George Martin on electric harpsichord, a Baldwin Combo CW8S. They did 23 takes of the rhythm track because George Martin admitted that he was not the world's greatest player in terms of timing, and he would make a lot more mistakes than John did. And only takes 1, 16, and 23 were actually complete takes. And then they determined that take 16 was the best. Then they overdubbed that three-part harmony, which took 5 hours to get right. August 4th, they're back in the studio, and they doubled that harmony 2 times, which took 30 times each time, and including some drop-ins. So it's not a 9-part harmony, as George Martin says. It's actually just 3-part harmony, triple-tracked. On August 5th, George Harrison added the Moog parts, and that took 3 hours. It was mixed on August 12th without any compression or limiting, which may be the first time or only time that happened on the Beatles recording. And it was released on September 26th in Great Britain and October 1st, 1969 in the USA on the Abbey Road album. So that's the backstory. Let's get started. For the harpsichord part on my sound-alike, I'm going to use a Framus 12-string, but for now I'll just show you it on 6-string. I think it's a little easier. The song is traditionally known to be in C-sharp minor. I like to call that actually D-flat minor because for my brain I think easier in flats than I do in sharps. So to play the song you'll need these chords. You'll need a D-flat minor. You'll need an E-flat minor 7, flat 5, and for the harpsichord part, it's kind of an odd guitar voicing like this. Then you'll need a A-flat over E-flat, like this. You'll need a straight A, which I'm going to voice it to get an open A string like this. And you'll need an A7. Again, I want to keep the open A string. And an A13. Then you'll need the traditional, what I call a John Lennon D, voice like this. And a D diminished, odd voicing like this. And there's a pull-off before that happens. So you basically just arpeggiate through those chords, which means you play single notes up and go backwards. So on the D-flat minor, you go. Then you need your pinky on this E, which almost makes an E chord. Which could talk about D-flat minor being the relative minor, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So then D-flat minor. And you repeat that. Then for the harpsichord part, get that E-flat minor 7, flat 5. Then you need an E to a G-flat. to the A flat over E flat. So I'll do those first 4 measures, nice and slow. 3, 4. Then you're to the A chord, to the D flat minor, to the A7, to the A13. So those 4 measures sound like this. 3, 4. Then the John Lennon D, arpeggiate right through it. And the D diminished. And you just have to do one pull off from that G flat to the F. Okay, so let me play that, which is actually an intro, a verse, and it's all the verses actually, all 4 verses. So it would sound like this. In totality up to the bridge, 3, 4. And then the only difference is on the bridge. And on the bridge, the chords would be G flat over D flat to a full G flat to an A flat 7 raised 5. And it only becomes a raised 5 at the very end. It's pretty much an A flat 7, and then you get a E, which is the raised 5 of that A flat A7. So think A flat, a regular A flat 7, and then you can get it to raise 5 with a pinky, and to an A flat 7. Oops. Or you could put the E in there. E flat. Easier if I just play it for you. So the bridge sounds like this. 3, 4. And those are all the parts you'll need to play the harpsichord, just like George Martin did. Charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com will make it a lot easier than I could play it or say it, but those are the harpsichord parts. John Lennon is playing his Epiphone Casino one because I've got mine going through a 1967 Fender Deluxe Reverb. The chords are pretty much the same. There's a couple of differences. For one, John starts on measure 5 of the intro. When on the A part, you'll hear John come in on the So let's again talk about the chords you'll need for John's part. It's again the D flat minor. But the second chord John plays is just an E flat minor 7th. He plays this chord. And he makes it a flat 9 when he goes. And then an A flat and like this. And then an A. And what I was going to say is don't use open strings for the Lennon part. Like don't use the open A. Bar it, because that's what John would do. Back to the D flat minor, to an A7, and an A13, and then the Lennon D, Do that D diminished where you pull off. All right, so let me just play like verse 2, what John would do, so you could hear how it sounds. Verse 2 would sound like this: 3, 4. Got that? And then on the bridge, same chords, the G flat over D flat to a regular G flat to an A flat 7, which they kind of make it a raise 5 when they hit that E to G flat, and then a regular A flat 7. I'll get it. Charts and tabs will make it clearer than I can say it or play it. But let me just play that bridge. The bridge goes like this. 3, 4. Yeah, that's something different. The harpsichord doesn't do that slide up from the to the E flat, from the D flat to the E flat, but John does on the G flat. So again, bridge, 3, 4. And those are all the parts you'll need to play, just like John Lennon on Because. Well, I've put it together in a sound-alike, along with two of my very dear friends, Phil Keaggy singing the high Paul McCartney part, and Randy Stonehill doing the George Harrison part. So please, have a look at this. Well, there you have a nice, easy way to play Because on guitar. And you gotta admit, our three voices sure blend together nicely. I suggest you download the charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com, learn both parts, play along with my sound alike, and you'll get it just like the Beatles. And I really appreciate your consideration in supporting my work that way. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, because that moves me up in the YouTube queue. So have fun playing this great old song, because that's what playing the guitar should be all about. And until next time, I'm Mike Pachelli. Thanks for hanging out with me.